I'm going to keep this straight to the point because I know a lot of you have been scrolling through endless listings, wondering whether a tiny workstation can actually replace a full-size tower without turning your desk into a heat source. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The hesitation is real. You've probably heard stories about mini PCs that either choke under a heavy load or sit in a corner and collect dust while you wait for them to catch up. What I want to do is walk through the everyday scenarios where the HP Z2 Mini G9 actually shines, and where it might leave you reaching for a larger box. Mini PCs occupy a sweet spot for people who need serious compute power but have limited desk real estate. The Z2 Mini packs a 13th Gen Intel Core i9 with 24 cores, which on paper sounds like overkill for a compact box, but the real test is how that power translates into daily work. In my own testing, I set it up next to a dual monitor rig for CAD drafting, and the processor handled multi-threaded simulations without the lag you sometimes see on lower-end N-series chips. The 280W power supply does its job quietly enough that the fan noise stays below the hum of a typical office printer, even when the CPU is pushing 2 GHz across several cores. The SSD is a full 1 TB, so you get fast load times for large project files and enough room to keep several months of renders or video assets without constantly externalizing data. Gigabit Ethernet gives a rock-solid connection for transferring those big files to a NAS, which matters more than a Wi-Fi 6 card when you're moving terabytes overnight. If you're a freelance architect, a video editor who works on 4K timelines, or a software developer who runs multiple virtual machines, this machine checks the boxes you care about. The 32 GB of DDR5 RAM means you can have Photoshop, Premiere Pro, and a few browser tabs open without the system dipping into swap. The compact chassis slides under a standing desk, keeping the footprint almost invisible, and the rear panel offers a good mix of ports USB-C, a couple of USB-A, HDMI, and the Ethernet jack so you don't need an extra dock. Upgrading isn't a nightmare either. The SSD is a standard M.2 drive you can swap out if you ever need more storage, and the RAM slots are accessible without having to dismantle the whole unit. For a small office that wants a shared workstation for rendering drafts or a design team that needs a dedicated node for compiling code, the Z2 Mini delivers workstation-class speed without demanding a dedicated server rack. On the flip side, there are clear limits. The chassis doesn't have room for a discrete GPU, so if your workflow leans heavily on GPU acceleration, think high-end 3D modeling, real-time ray tracing, or the latest gaming titles, you'll quickly feel the absence of a dedicated graphics card. The cooling solution is adequate for CPU-intensive tasks, but it does run hotter under sustained max load scenarios, which can lead to the fans kicking up a faint whine after an hour or so of non-stop encoding. For people who expect a silent office environment, that's something to keep in mind. Also, the 280W PSU is fine for the stock configuration, but it doesn't give you much headroom if you ever decide to add more drives or a future-proofed expansion card. In short, if you're looking for a portable gaming rig or a machine that can double as a heavy-duty AI training node, you'll be better off with a larger tower or a workstation-grade laptop that can accommodate the extra power and cooling. Summing it up, the HP Z2 Mini G9 is a very capable little workhorse that lives up to its mini workstation label. It offers the kind of raw CPU muscle that lets you run multiple professional apps simultaneously, while keeping the desk tidy and the noise low enough not to distract. Its strengths are the dense core count, fast DDR5 memory, and a spacious SSD that together make everyday creative work feel snappy. The drawbacks are the lack of a dedicated GPU, a cooling system that can become audible under long, heavy loads, and a power budget that leaves little room for future expansion. If your primary needs are CPU-heavy tasks, a clean desktop, and the ability to upgrade storage or memory without a major overhaul, this is a solid investment. If you need top-tier graphics or absolute silence, you'll want to look elsewhere. Either way, give it a look and see if the specs line up with what you actually do day to day. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon.